game tomorrow. Big night under the lights at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. We have to just put that game to one side and focus on that. But we do have a bit of going over the past to go through. So I guess we should get into it. But Jimbo, before we get into it, how are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks, Ben. Thanks for the invite. I think Sim's been hanging about with Nick too much. Nick's always late.
Nick Barry Collison, Emerson Royale lover Nick, who decides to turn up whenever he likes.
Yeah, he's too busy watching Milan. That's why he's on. Too much Emerson Royale. But Sim's just getting his makeup done. He's getting ready. Here he is.
How are we doing, everyone?
Welcome.
Good, thanks.
I thought after Saturday's loss, I'd try and give this one a miss, but unfortunately, I made it in time.
Unfortunate for you. Kate was about to put you in detention, apparently.
Wouldn't be the first time. Put it that way. How are we doing, though? We're right, Kate? Nice to see you, Jimbo.
Yeah, good,
all
thanks,
good,
Sim.
thanks. Yeah, nice to see you too, Sim.
Nice to meet you, Sim. First time I spoke to you.
Yeah, first time, but I've seen you be on the channel a few times now, contributing to the pump up. So big up to you, Jimbo.
Thank you.
But yeah, look, it's not been a great few days, has it?
It has not indeed. I guess we'll get straight into it. We're going to be talking about our away form because obviously it's been highlighted that I think that we've got 4 away wins in the last 12 months, I think it is the stat, which is obviously nowhere near good enough. The majority of those coming against 10 men as well. We'll start off with you, Kate. Why do you think that is so bad? Why is our away form so bad when, for the most part, I think me and Sim, I don't know if you guys agree, but we think Ange is the right man for the job. We're going in the right direction. But why is that away? Why can't we seem to get over that away hurdle?
Do you know what? You asked me a question last time I was on here and I said, I wish I knew the answer. And I'm going to say the same thing because if I knew the answer, I would write to Ange Postecoglou and tell him exactly why. But I literally have no idea. I mean, I'm with you. I think Ange is the right man for the job. I can see the progress. I can see what he's trying to do. I don't think we've played particularly bad for the majority of the season. Obviously, Coventry, the second half of Brighton and the Crystal Palace game are exceptions. But I just don't know why. I mean, if you look back over the years, our away form has never been particularly brilliant. But, I mean, this away form is diabolical. And even going to grounds like Selhurst Park, where we've sort of historically always done well there, apart from the odd shock results. Go there and just be dominated, and literally, it was like we didn't even turn up. It was embarrassing, really. So I just don't know what it is. You can't even say fatigue because the players that started at the Palace game weren't the ones that started in Europe. So I think it's the $1 million question. I think if we all knew the answer, we'd feel better about it. But the fact that we don't know is what's so frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, I'm perplexed to it as well. I have no idea why these results and performances keep coming around. But Jimbo, it's like it's almost like easier to take when you lose in the fashion that we drew against Leicester and Newcastle, where we put in good performances, but we just didn't get over the line. We didn't put the ball in the back of the net. But when the performances like the second half against Brighton come, and then the Crystal Palace performance come, and then we obviously deservedly lose, I mean, it's really hard to take, and it's hard to put your finger on it, isn't it?
It is, yeah, it is. I don't. the Brighton one, absolutely. I was just lost. I just couldn't get my head around how they come out and was just a completely different team. But I think the Crystal Palace one, Ben. I think the Palace just from the beginning, they dominated us, closed us down. There was every time we got the ball, there was 3 players on the person. We were mispassing because they were closing down so quick. I just think they couldn't get to grips with the way Palace set up. And even in the second half, it was the same. So I think we've got to give Palace a bit more credit than give Tottenham a slaughtering, because I thought Palace played really well. The way they weren't like didn't play really well. The way they set up and the way they closed us down and didn't give us a minute on the ball, a second on the ball. So I think we should give them a bit more credit. And look, I said this the other day on our stream, that the pitch was very small, and I'm not blaming the pitch. Don't think I'm making that as an excuse. But with the pitch being a bit smaller and them closing us down so quick, I think we just played straight into their hands.
You know what I noticed as well, but it's a good point you make about the pitch, because not about it being small, but what I noticed being there at the ground, that the pitch was really heavy on the day. I don't know if they watered it heavily down before the game or something, but as every time the ball bounced on the pitch, you could see the water spray up. And maybe that had something to do with, how bad up. Obviously, it was how well Crystal Palace were pressing and how well they were intercepting the ball. But maybe that had a factor in it as well. What do you reckon, Sim?
Well, those are the kind of things you have to deal with when you go away from home. Teams looking for the advantages. That's why home advantage is such a big thing. I think it's probably a bigger thing in football than it is in most other sports, to be honest, because of those advantages. You get the home crowd up. You saw what an important game it was for Crystal Palace. I agree with Jimbo, actually, as well, when he says Palace deserve more credit than people are giving them credit for, because I know they're down in 18th and I know they've been struggling this season and there were no wins their Thursday games, but I think they're a good team. I think if you look at all their games this season, I think apart from one game, all their losses have only been by a goal. They've had some creditable draws. They drew to Chelsea. They only lost when they played Liverpool at Selhurst Park. Could have easily been a different result. Liverpool ended up winning 1-0. They got an early goal and it was a very tight game. So I was expecting a tough game going into it, and I think Palace really upped their game for this one. In fact, they caught us by surprise with a few tactical tweaks, as we've mentioned. They were pressing a lot more aggressively. We mentioned on our match review, if you look at the average positions of their team against Spurs compared to most other weeks, it was a lot higher up, and maybe they were looking to catch Tottenham off guard and looking to disrupt our build-up. The disappointment is, obviously, we didn't find any solutions to that. The changes we made on the half-hour mark, I thought, actually made us worse, not better. Yeah. And that was a big disappointment, and I think he didn't really find the solutions properly. But I said yesterday that I was obviously angry and upset about the result and the performance, but I those kind of games I kind of expect to happen during a season where a team kind of outdoes you tactically and gets the better of you, and you take stock, you try and understand why it happened and not let it happen again. But games like Brighton, when you're 2-0 up and you've got the game in your hands and you're in total control, and then you completely let it slip, you throw away. I'm obviously more angry at those kind of games, because those are games that should be +3. You've earned the result by how you've played, and you've got the better of the opposition, and you've chucked it away out of your own complacency or whatever it is. You've chucked it away, and that's obviously really aggravating. When it comes to obviously the away form in general, it's a difficult one, because I think if you look at a lot of our away performances, I don't think I've got a massive issue with a lot of them. I think, yes, when you go away from home, especially the way we play, obviously teams are going to get chances. Teams are going to have periods where they're getting the better of you. It's hard to have total control of the way we play away from home. I think when we're at home, I think we can do a bit more often because we overwhelm teams. I think when teams are coming away from home, they sit back a bit more, and I think it's easier for us to maybe control the game for longer periods and totally dominate. When it comes to away from home, obviously teams have that extra motivation. They got the home crowd, and the way we play, we're very open. And so when teams who up their game, and if they up their game at home and they play through their press and they up their aggression a bit, they will have more periods where they're getting the better of us. And unfortunately, when we have been on top of the opposition in our periods, we haven't made the most of it, and that's been a big problem. Now, against Palace, it was a different issue. We just didn't turn up at all, and Palace completely had the better of it for most of the game. But if I look at, in general, our home-away performances, in isolation this season, obviously Brighton, we were 2-0 up. Newcastle, we dominated the majority of that game. I know Newcastle had periods, and they take advantage of those periods, and we didn't, but we had longer periods on top of them. Leicester, we should have definitely won that game, and we had long periods on top of them as well. Again, Leicester had a little period when they were on top of us, and they took advantage of it, and we didn't take full advantage of the period when we were on top of them. But I look at that performance and I think we were on top of them for a lot of it. So I don't think performance-wise, it's a massive issue, as much as there are things that need improving, and as much as I think, yes, we're not perfect away from home by any stretch, and obviously that if we can't turn our away form around, that's going to be a big issue, which Ange, he's going to be put under pressure. He's already under pressure with that away form at the moment. But if I'm just looking this season at our away performances in isolation, I don't have a massive issue with a lot of them.
Yeah, what I would say to that is that you're looking at the away performance this season, and for the most part, I agree with you. They've been fairly good, but when you're looking at it on a whole under Ange Postecoglou with 4 wins in our last 12 months, these recent games against Brighton and Crystal Palace, you're seeing similar traits that we have seen in certain games last season, and take it back to like Fulham away.
But that's the thing. Like I say, Fulham away, maybe even not the Palace games. Obviously, we were outdone Palace. I can agree with that. But like for example, Brighton away, we lost 4-2 last season, right? You can say it's exactly the same this season. We lost 3-2. But last season, we were 4-0 down. We got absolutely trounced, and we were out the game until 10 minutes to go, where we got a couple of consolations. This season was different. We had control. We got the better of them. We were 2-0 up, and unfortunately, we shut the bed in the second half. I know the results are the same, but the context is a bit different. Like, I think there have been improvements in terms of where we're heading in our away performances this season to last season.
But they've regressed. They've regressed over the last 2 away games.
They've regressed. Yeah, look,
massively.
Yeah, look, and that will happen during a season. That will happen during a season. So maybe they'll improve. I don't think progression or regression is a linear line. Like, the performances get. You have 2 bad performances. Oh, the performances are getting worse, and then you'll win another game. Then you can say performances are getting better. But it's not always a linear line. Sometimes it's up and down, especially where we are in our project at the moment. So I don't see that. Of course, you never want to see regression, but unless we're like winning every single away game, you're not going to get progression throughout the whole season, are you? Because unless you're like we drew at Leicester, unless you're like then winning 1-0, then 2-0 and 3-0, then it's not always progression.
All right. Well, you said to me a few days ago, a week ago, that it's so nice every time you turn up to a Tottenham game, you know which Tottenham you're going to get, you know what you're going to see. Mm-hmm. In these last 2 away games, in the second half against Brighton and the 90 minutes against Crystal Palace, we haven't seen that Tottenham. Yeah,
and that's an issue. And that's not good. But does it mean that everyth's wrong and we have to throw it all away? No. But
we're not saying that. We're not saying that.
Yeah,
I'm just spinning up concerns.
Yeah, there is a concern over the fact that the last 2 away games, especially second half against Brighton in the Palace game, that it hasn't been good. And Palace we were completely outdone. And Brighton, we had control of the game and we threw it away. Brighton, I would argue, we did see the Tottenham we've been in the first half. But obviously, in the second half, we didn't see that, and we threw out the control that we had. So those are issues that Ange has to sort out 100%. But in between that, we did have a 4-1 win against West Ham. We obviously beat RZ. It wasn't a great game. We beat them 1-0. So, it's not like, we're just taking to the last 2 away games, but there are games in between that where we have done well. So I guess the away form is definitely a concern, but I'm not going overboard just yet in terms of this season in isolation. Yes, you bring in last season and you extrapolate that, then you can say there's a clear issue. But I would say if we're just taking this season in isolation, I'm still calm about the situation, is my point.
You guys calm? Kate, you calm about the situation?
At the moment, I am, yeah. I said to Dave over at the Irish Hotspur, I was talking to him, and I said, I'm not losing my head. With Tottenham fans, a lot of them, it's either everything is terrible or everything is wonderful. There's no balance somewhere in the middle. And I have my doubts with Ange at times. I do flip-flop occasionally, thinking, is he the right
Like all of us, Kate, like all of us.
Exactly. You can only go by what you see. But I just think it is we're only a sort of a season and 9 games into this whole change of philosophy from, being such a defensive side. And let's be fair, when Ange took over, the club was in real disarray. And I think people have just got to give it time. I don't understand what we could achieve by sacking Ange and starting all over again yet, because, the results aren't what we all want. Obviously we want to win every week, but I can see what Ange is trying to do. When you look at Ten Hag, there was no clue what he was trying to do. It was all over the place. But with Ange, you can see what he's trying to do. So, for me, I am quite calm with the situation at the moment. I've always said from the start of the season, I don't really care where we finish in the league. As long as we don't get relegated, I want a cup. That's my thing. So we'll see what happens tomorrow night and how calm I am after that.
So you taking 17th in the Carabao Cup this season?
Maybe not 17th in a Carabao Cup. I'll take 10th in a Carabao Cup, but I'll take 17th in the Europa League.
Fair play. Jimbo, are you kind of seeing what I'm seeing as well, maybe with the Palace game and the second half of the Brighton, worrying traits that we did see at some points last season? I look at the Fulham game as a prime example. I can't remember if there were many others like that, but off the top of my head, but I'm sure there were.
No, no, I'm not. Ben, I just think to myself, I've watched football, excuse me, for a lot of years. I've supported Spurs 50, 55 years. I had a season ticket for 25. I've been around football and watched football a lot. Right now, we've got to take you've got to take the whole overall picture. Right, to even talk about getting rid of Ange now is just absolutely ludicrous to me. It really is.
I don't think anyone's talking. I mean, no one on this panel's talking about that.
No,
anyway.
not this panel. No, not this panel. But to talk about getting rid of Ange to me is absolutely ludicrous. He's had a season of 9 games, right? If you look at what managers ever walked into a club in the Premier League and hit the ground running?
Arnie
Right?
Slot.
Maresca.
Yeah.
I can name one. Ange.
Ange.
Yeah, and
Nuno.
There's going to be no. But what I'm talking about is over
a period of time.
Yeah, over the first season, over the second season, it's very, very rare. You've got to give managers time. He walked into Tottenham, guys, and we was a mess, an absolute mess. Not just the football team, but behind the scenes as well. And it's going to take time to sort that out. You know, we need to take a step back and just calm down a little bit. There's going to be losses on the way. We have to accept that, you know. And if you look at the history of other clubs when they've had managers come in, Pep, the Liverpool guy, what's his name? The one that's gone, Klopp. It's what happens in football. We need to give them time to sort it out. You know, he's got players in there. Look, we've got Timo. You know, I'm not going to slag him down. That's not my way to do that. But he's not good enough for this team. So they need to get rid of him again. Why they ever brought him back, I don't know. But there's a few players in there he needs to change around and get some new players in over the next couple of windows. I think we just need to be a little bit calm, right, and enjoy the games we do win. And when we lose, all right, we can critique, but not go overboard. You know,
when do you think is a fair time to assess the judgment then on the people that are running out of patience with Ange?
Well, I think 2 more windows. I think 2 more windows. Look, this season is a big season. It depends how we do this season. I wouldn't accept low down the table in a cup. It's not
even the Europa League.
Kate, look, at the end of the day, you've got to. If you win a cup, it is progression, but you've got to look at progression. It is in the league. You need to get stable in the league. So I will take top 6 and a cup, and I think that's really good progression. You know, even though we finished 5th last season, finishing 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th for me is not good.
I agree with that. I think like I can't finish. I can't see us. I mean, I can't accept us finishing lower than 6th this season. I really can't. And if we do finish 6th or 5th and don't get that top 4 spot and don't win a trophy, then that's obviously a terrible season for me. So I would only accept finishing 6th as well if we do go and win the Europa League or the FA Cup or a trophy like that.
5th is CL.
If 5th is CL, I mean, I said 6th. I won't take finishing 6th.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think we all want progression, don't we? And obviously, context of the season matters. If we're finishing 6th or 7th, but we're getting to Europa League final and FA Cup final, maybe winning one of them, then maybe you can accept it, especially Europa League. But if we're and as well, maybe if you see in the Premier League that we're losing games, I guess we have been this season already. But I think context does matter. But if we're out of all the cups early, and we maybe get to a Europa League quarter final, but that's the furthest we get, and we're obviously struggling in the league, then big questions have to be asked of Ange 100%. Because whatever people want to say about a lot of the team we have and all that, the reality is I think Ange has had a big say and I think he has picked a lot of these players. I think Brennan he's picked. I think Werner he's decided to re-sign. I think these are a lot of his players and he's got to take a lot of the brunt of it, in my opinion, if things go badly. I don't think yes, we can point to other teams maybe having better players in certain positions, but we've spent quite a bit of money. He's had a lot of money to spend, and he's chosen a lot of these players. So I don't know what Ange can really complain about himself. Yes, as a Tottenham fan, you can if you want, you can complain about the squad we have, and you think this player's rubbish, that player's rubbish. But for your Ange, I don't see how much complaining he's got because I think he's had a lot of money to spend.
Nah, I don't think you can complain if you're Ange. I think you're 100% right. I think Daniel Levy has taken a step back from deciding, the transfer targets. It's all in the hands of Lange and Ange, and it's on them now if these players don't work out. I mean, I've sat here and criticised Levy time and time again about the transfer policy, about Super League and about all this kind of stuff. But if you're sitting here now in this project, I don't think Levy has too much of a say of the players that comes in. I think he just signs the checks and moves on. So I think, me personally, it is on Lange and Ange, as much as I'm not the biggest fan of Daniel Levy as well. But look, let's move on. Let's talk about the next topic before we